After rebirth, the entire sect could hear my inner thoughts. Chapter 1. The master surely doesn't know Talia is the demon lord's daughter. She drugged his soup, framed me for it, got my meridians destroyed by our master, then had her admirers throw me to beggars for humiliation. The master's hand trembled, sending the soup bowl crashing to the ground. My gaze shifted to the senior brother. He'd never guess our junior sister damaged his ancestral sword just to steal the spotlight in tomorrow's trial. She even framed me, making the eldest senior brother sever my tendons. The eldest senior brother hastily lowered his head to inspect his sword. I turned to the second senior brother. Junior sister poisoned him, claiming it was brewed with her own heart's blood. That's why he stabbed me, but that blood was mine all along. The second senior brother's throat convulsed as he coughed up a mouthful of blood. My thoughts race endlessly. They still believe I bullied our junior sister, exiled me to the cliff of reflection, leaving me to be devoured alive by demonic beasts. Enough, this lifetime. I'll never meddle again. Let them perish by their own folly. Yet after that day, everyone in the sect changed. Those who wronged me came to my grotto one by one, kneeling to beg forgiveness. Senior sister, look. Master brought this spirit herb back from the secret realm for me. I'm giving it to you. As the familiar sweet voice reached my ears, my consciousness gradually cleared. Standing before me was Talia, my adorable junior sister who always lived so well behaved. But, didn't I die? Died in the maw of a demonic beast, gruesomely chewed and devoured alive. Could it be? I'd been reborn. When I refused the spirit herb, Talia's almond-shaped eyes instantly welled up with tears. Senior sister Celine. I know I stole your chance to enter the secret realm, but this spirit herb, I begged our master to retrieve it through great hardship. Please accept it. Her few careless words made my fellow disciples look at me differently. I remained silent amid the whispers about my pettiness, not even bothering to explain. In my past life, ever since master brought junior sister Talia to our sect, she became everyone's favorite. Everyone agreed junior sister's cheerful, innocent nature brought fresh energy to our sect. As for me, through her calculated schemes and ambiguous sobbing time and again, I became the jealous senior sister who resented her popularity. Whenever Talia ran into trouble, they'd inevitably suspect I'd pulled strings behind the scenes. Even her slightest frown would make people assume I'd given her the cold shoulder. Because of Talia, I was banished to the cliff of reflection and ultimately torn apart by demonic beasts. Only in my dying moments did I realize she was the demon lord's daughter, born with the power to bewitch minds. She infiltrated our sect solely to destroy us from within, paving the way for the demon's resurgence. My death is just the beginning. When the demonic forces invade, neither the Grand Master, senior disciples, nor any sect brothers will escape. With these thoughts, I glanced at the Grand Master seated high above, sipping the chicken soup our youngest sister had painstakingly prepared. Clad in white robes, he looked like an ethereal immortal untouched by mortal concerns, holding a bowl of soup. His expression turned grave, lost in unreadable thoughts, probably just like the others, thinking I've been bullying our junior sister. After all, he's always been one of Talia's staunchest believers. As these thoughts crossed my mind, I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. In my past life, it seems my misfortune began precisely on this day. It was Talia herself who spiked our master's tonic with that drug, clouding his judgment and leading to that improper master-disciple incident that made our entire sect the laughingstock of the cultivation world. Yet she framed me for it. Without even investigating, our master believed I'd developed improper feelings for him, and destroyed all my meridians. What should I do to prevent this from happening? Maybe I should just rush over and knock the bowl over. They already think I've got it out for Talia anyway. Before I could act, I heard a loud thud. When I looked again, the bowl of chicken soup in the master's hands had somehow ended up shattered on the floor. Master, I spent 4 whole hours painstakingly preparing this soup for you. Talia pouted, her face the very picture of wounded pride. In the entire sect, she was probably the only disciple bold enough to speak so casually with our aloof and revered master. Yet strangely, the master who usually doted on her didn't respond with his customary indulgence. Instead, he gazed thoughtfully at the overturned chicken soup. Talia was far from willing to let her plan go down the drain like this. She scurried to the kitchen and surprisingly returned with another bowl of chicken soup. I was saving this for myself in case I got hungry, but since master accidentally spilled theirs, this bowl is naturally meant for you. My heart raced as I watched her about to hand the soup to our master. Oh no, a second bowl. I absolutely can't drink this. Whether it ruins his reputation or not doesn't matter. What about my meridians? I refuse to become a powerless cripple. I might have imagined it, but right after that thought, my master suddenly looked up at me. That glance held too many emotions to decipher. Honestly, he must have taken the wrong medicine today. Why is he suddenly paying attention to me out of nowhere? Weren't you absolutely disgusted by me before? Just as I was complaining, I saw the master take the chicken soup and hand it to Talia instead. Talia, since you set aside this bowl of chicken soup for yourself, I won't drink it, you should have it. With the master putting it that way, Talia was caught between a rock and a hard place, her delicate face twisted into the most amusing expressions. Seeing her reaction, the master's heart sank. It was just a test. Yet Talia had failed to meet the challenge. I observed the different course of events from my past life, but didn't dwell on it much. Chapter 2, maybe someone finally grew a brain. With Master's crisis apparently resolved, it was now senior brother's turn. My gaze shifted toward the senior brother. The eldest senior brother had such a gentle temperament. His entire demeanor exuded warmth that felt like spring breeze. You'd never guess he was a swordsman. Before our junior sister joined the sect, he actually treated me with considerable kindness. That's why my feelings toward him remain rather complicated. If I remember correctly, that sword of his was a family heirloom, rumored to contain traces of a sword spirit. What a pity! A spiritual weapon with the potential to become a divine sword was ruined by Talia's hands. Talia had already placed that sword in the demonic sealing grounds at the back mountain. Had we discovered it any later, the sword spirit would have likely been annihilated by the demonic energy. As I was lost in thought, the senior disciple suddenly looked up, staring at me with startled eyes. I instinctively touched my own face. Why is he staring at me? Do I have something on my face? Right. Talia destroyed his sword to weaken him. During tomorrow's trial, she'll deliberately put the senior brother in danger. When he realizes his sword's compromised, she'll produce a demon-sealing talisman to steal the spotlight. But that talisman's a fake, just part of her scheme to frame me. Last lifetime, the senior brother took her word as gospel, didn't even let me explain before severing my tendons. Losing my cultivation at Master's hands was bad enough, but this blind fool just had to make it worse. Guess I'll have to find a way to wake him up. Lost in thought, Talia suddenly spoke up. Eldest brother, you look absolutely dreadful. She leaned in with genuine concern, studying his condition closely. Countless envious gazes fell upon the senior disciple. Yet he squirmed like he was sitting on pins and needles. I just remembered something urgent. I need to return to my quarters immediately. He rushed off in a hurry, leaving the rest of us standing there utterly bewildered. I found myself puzzled once again. Did this happen in my past life? Why did he leave so abruptly? As I was lost in thought, a shadowy figure suddenly materialized before me. The man was clad in crimson robes, his bewitchingly beautiful features marred by an unnatural pallor. He's my senior martial brother and my betrothed, yet now, he's looking at me with utter disgust. Celine, what kind of wicked game are you playing? I've been listening to your endless chatter. Are you smearing Talia's name again? Talia is kind and adorable, 1,000 times better than a scheming, cold-hearted woman like you. I blinked and couldn't help but frown. Here comes the dumbest man in the entire sect. Babbling nonsense as usual, just seeing him annoys me. What a scumbag. My lips stayed still, but I cursed him viciously in my mind a dozen times over. Second brother looked irritated and was about to argue with me when he overheard my inner monologue again. What a waste giving that bastard my heart's blood in our past life. Ugh, he's even blinder than our master and eldest brother, thinking Talia was the one who gave him that vital essence. Seriously, anyone with half a brain could tell. Talia's built like an ox, who'd still be bouncing around after having their heart's blood extracted. What's worse, that bizarre poison in his system was actually administered by Talia, yet he still sees her as his savior. I'm so done with this idiot. Just thinking about our former engagement makes me sick to my stomach. My second senior brother standing before me suddenly turned pale, no idea what his problem was. I rolled my eyes and kept ranting internally. In his past life, he was Talia's most devoted simp because of the heart's blood bond. What a joke. Every disciple in the sect, even our master, was just another fish in her pond. The most infuriating part, that idiot's second brother actually believed I was head over heels for him, making him jealous of Talia this whole time. When Talia faked an injury to frame me, that scumbag even stabbed me through the heart. Good heavens. Just thinking about it boils my blood. This is the ultimate betrayal, like the scholar and the wolf, the farmer and the snake, Celine and that damned second brother. Second brother clenched his lower lip, glancing at Talia's rosy complexion as if something inside him was slowly crumbling. No way, this can't be real. Muttering incoherently, he imitated eldest brother's panicked manner and scurried away in a fluster. I think he might need to see a doctor about that head of his. Talia stepped forward, tugging at my sleeve with earnest concern. Senior sister, second brother's health is fragile. Why must you provoke his temper? Even if you resent him for breaking off the engagement, you should at least remember your past affection. How considerate. What a perfectly tactful remark, as if being jilted and inexplicably targeted somehow became my own fault. Sometimes I can't help but marvel. While Talia truly possesses the power to bewitch hearts, her silver tongue is equally formidable. She could spin black into white, utterly terrifying. Senior sister Celine, junior sister Talia is right, your temperament needs adjustment, it's wholly unbefitting a disciple of our celestial vanguard sect. Exactly, even if second brother humiliated you by breaking off the engagement, how could you disregard his life like this? Watching these accusers and sensing the lingering hostility in my fellow disciples' eyes, I let out a quiet sigh, after Talia summoned the demonic forces. They'll be the first to perish. Why should I even waste my anger on them? Last life, I cared too much. Even after discovering Talia's dealings with demons, I still tried to protect the sect, yet all it took were a few of her crocodile tears for them to petition our master to imprison me in the reflection cliff, where Talia's summoned beasts tore me apart. Enough, this time, I won't get involved, let them reap what they sow. Once I realized this, I decided to make a run for it. There's no reasoning with such a devoted lapdog. After all, that's exactly how it went in my past life. I ignored everyone and went straight back to my cave dwelling, unaware that the entire sect erupted into chaos the moment I left. Everyone except Talia was discussing that inexplicable inner voice that had suddenly appeared. After making an excuse to slip away from Talia, the master went to the back mountain to search for the senior disciple who had left in haste. The senior disciple looked dazed and was slow to react when he saw the master. Master, why have you come here? Could it be that you too? The master nodded. Indeed, I too heard Celine's inner voice. After much hesitation, the senior disciple finally spoke up. Master, could what Celine said possibly be true? Chapter 3. He found it hard to believe their innocent junior sister could be such a malevolent demon. Even the master couldn't answer his question. Reason told him Celine's words weren't baseless rumors. Her mention of past lives suggested she might be someone who'd been reborn. In the cultivation world, those blessed with such fortune always carried immense virtue, never wicked souls. Yet emotionally, he found himself in turmoil. Could that sweet little disciple who always called him master so affectionately, thoughtfully prepared soups for him, and constantly relied on him truly be the demon lord's daughter? Yet he couldn't help recalling the time before Talia arrived. Back then, Celine had seemed just as gentle and sensible. Why had she suddenly become so unreasonable after Talia's appearance? Both fell into an awkward silence, neither knowing what to say. Moments later, the second brother crept over furtively. Now the three of them stood staring at each other in bewilderment. They all wondered whether Celine was telling the truth. Clearly, this is the most straightforward place to verify. The trio decided to hide here, waiting to see if Talia would show up, but before Talia made an appearance, I ended up arriving first, though I'd rather not meddle in the celestial sex affairs. Demonkind's inherent cruelty makes them enemies of all. My conscience would never let me rest if I abandoned everything just out of momentary frustration. After much deliberation, I've decided to start by locating eldest brother's sword first. Though my eldest brother's vision isn't sharp and he's not the brightest, his combat skills are formidable. Hidden in the tree with suppressed presence, eldest brother wore a complicated expression as he listened to these relentless jabs. He felt dazed, suddenly remembering the past. Back then, before his junior sister arrived, Celine would still gaze at him with admiration, pleading to learn sword techniques from him. But now that he thought about it, it seemed like ages since he last taught Celine any sword moves, and Celine hadn't looked at him with that same worshipful expression in a long time. As usual, second senior brother was being brainless. See, Talia didn't come, Celine got here first. Celine must have framed her on purpose. The master's face darkened. Silence. Someone else is approaching. At that very moment, sensing another presence, I instantly leaped onto the sturdiest tree without hesitation. The sight of three people neatly perched on the branch nearly made me lose my spiritual balance and fall. Had the senior brother not steadied me, I'd have made a complete fool of myself. Though once stabilized, I quickly wiped my hands with subtle distaste. I thought my movements were subtle, but all three people nearby noticed. Realizing my disdain for them left an unexpectedly bitter taste in my mouth. After all, I wasn't like this with them before. If anything, I used to subtly curry favor. I couldn't be bothered with their thoughts, my eyes fixed on the ground beneath the tree. Just as expected, the sudden arrival was none other than Talia. At the sight of that familiar figure, the second senior brother, who had just sworn Talia was framed, widened his eyes in disbelief. See, it's really our junior sister. The eldest brother's voice transmission came through. After a brief silence, he still refused to back down. Eldest brother, junior sister might have just come by coincidence. But the next moment, watching Talia's actions, he was rendered speechless. Talia pulled the ancestral spirit sword belonging to the eldest brother from her storage pouch and flung it directly onto the demonic seal. A wisp of dark energy manifested in her hand. The master and two senior brothers, being highly skilled cultivators, immediately recognized it as demonic energy. Talia appeared to be conversing with her clansmen, though the tree stood some distance away. Our heightened cultivator senses allowed us to clearly hear her words even from our perch. Elder, this mission is far too simple. You wouldn't believe how gullible these righteous cultivators are. A mere whisper of enchantment magic, and they swallowed every word I said, only that Celine remained somewhat wary. But rest assured, I've already turned the entire Sky Sovereign sect against her. Once we eliminate her, the rest of these fools won't stand a chance. The Sky Sovereign sect will be ours for the taking. As she spoke with smug satisfaction, I noticed the flicker of anger crossing the faces of my three companions. Only after Talia finally left did the four of us climb down from the tree. An awkward silence hung in the air. Even my usually sarcastic second brother, who never missed a chance to mock me, seemed unable to meet my eyes, just like our master and eldest brother. In the end, I was the one who broke the silence. What brings you to this place? The three exchanged glances but kept their thoughts to themselves, simply calling it a coincidence. I eyed them suspiciously for a moment, but now that they've seen Talia's true colors, they'll probably be on their guard around her. That saves me the trouble. Good. However they deal with Talia from now on, that's no longer my concern. Just as I was about to leave, second brother suddenly grabbed my sleeve. Celine, he hadn't called me that in ages. The name felt oddly foreign even to him as it left his lips. I got goosebumps all over. Damn, why'd you call me that out of nowhere? Creepy as hell. Hearing my obvious rejection, second brother's beautiful peach blossom eyes flickered with hurt, but he spoke anyway. I might have misunderstood you before. I'm sorry. An apology. I actually get to hear those words, but this apology means nothing. I don't want anything to do with them ever again. TCH. I thought to myself while waving my hand dismissively, it's fine, it's all in the past now. I'm leaving. With those words, I bolted like a shot, completely missing the ashen faces of the three behind me. The senior brother looked grave, his eyes rimmed red as he turned to the master. Master, now that we've confirmed Celine was telling the truth, does that mean her account of those experiences was also genuine? The master remained silent, but his trembling hands betrayed his inner turmoil. Chapter 4. Even the usually sharp-tongued second senior brother fell into uncharacteristic silence. If the experiences Celine revealed in her heart were true, then in their past lives, they had all been her killers. At that very moment, they truly realized something was lost forever, perhaps fearing they might alert the enemy. The masters maintained their usual demeanor toward Talia after that day. This lulled the normally arrogant demon princess into lowering her guard. Blinded by her own arrogance, she believed she had the entire Skyward sect wrapped around her finger, completely oblivious to the seeds of rebellion quietly taking root. Just like in her past life, Talia chose to make her first move against me, but this time, things didn't go as smoothly as she'd anticipated, because I was in seclusion. To my shame, I used to be a cultivation fanatic, but after Talia arrived, I spent too much energy proving my innocence and enduring punishments. Gradually neglecting my cultivation, the fading of my smile carried away 2 decades of sweat and toil. I should have been the brightest jewel of the Sky Sovereign sect, now tarnished by these senseless affairs. With their fates no longer my concern, I devoted myself wholly to cultivation. For 3 full moons, my feet never crossed the cavern's threshold. Occasionally, I'd hear some commotion outside my cave, probably Talia coming to see me, but each time, someone would conveniently show up and take her away. I couldn't be bothered to figure out why, as long as they left me in peace. 3 months later, I finally achieved my breakthrough. Emerging from my secluded abode, I found the world on the brink of cataclysmic change. After suffering repeated defeats at my hands, Talia and her demonic cohorts grew increasingly restless. Impatient to eliminate me, they launched their assault despite incomplete preparations. Bloodthirsty fiends emerged one by one from weakened seals, leaving rivers of blood and untold suffering in their wake. Every disciple of the Skyward sect was fighting tooth and nail, except for me secluded in meditation. When we met again, I keenly sensed that the old hostility between us had noticeably faded. Before I could ponder further, Talia came rushing toward me. Senior sister Celine, you finally emerged. The demonic tribes have launched their assault. We're desperately short-handed right now. Just like before, she managed to set me up with her words. I was in secluded cultivation, yet no one bothered to inform me about the demon clan's attack, but the implication in her words made it seem like I was deliberately slacking off, avoiding battle by choosing this moment for seclusion. I just gave her a cold glance. If you're this short-handed against mere minnows, That's truly impressive. My single remark managed to insult the demon race while subtly offending every member of the Skyward sect. Furious, Talia's eyes darted mischievously as another wicked scheme took shape in her mind. That very night, she captured a demon near my cave who was supposedly exchanging messages with me. When all the intended witnesses had gathered, she immediately put on a show of righteous indignation. Master, I truly don't know why Senior Sister Celine would collude with a demonic faction like this, but we disciples of the Sky Sovereign sect have always been sworn enemies of demons. Surely this violates our sect rules. According to our sect's regulations, Master, you should send her to the Cliff of Reflection. At the mention of Cliff of Reflection, everyone present froze. The second senior brother reacted most violently. No way. She's not going. Talia's eyes flickered with visible confusion as she caught the unmistakable protectiveness in second brother's tone toward me. After all her constant scheming to drive a wedge between us, why was second brother still reacting this way? She couldn't quite figure it out, but that didn't stop her from stirring up trouble. I noticed her fingers twitch slightly when second brother suddenly coughed up blood, his face turning deathly pale. Talia seized the opportunity to showcase her devotion. Rushing forward to support second brother, your poison is flaring up again. Forget about this demonic collaborator. I'll fetch the heart-blood cure for you. As for Senior Sister Celine, banishment to the Cliff of Reflection is the punishment she deserves. Don't you agree, Master? First brother. But this time, no one humored her words. The Master parted his thin lips. Merely capturing a demon is insufficient, without witnesses besides you seeing Celine converse with their kind. I cannot simply cast her into the reflection abyss. Talia pouted pitifully. Master, does this mean you doubt my word? Her appearance seemed utterly harmless. Unfortunately, both our master and senior brothers knew exactly what kind of person she was, pushed beyond endurance. The eldest brother even exposed her true identity outright. Talia, do you really take everyone for fools? You're the one who's been colluding with the demon clan. Talia's eyes widened in shock, overconfident. She never imagined she'd ever be bested by these righteous cultivators she'd always looked down upon, yet here she was, utterly defeated. The sect master struck the moment the senior disciple uttered those words. The supreme warrior of celestial sect pinned her to the ground in an instant. Talia still refused to yield. Master, senior brother, could this be some misunderstanding? Yet they ignored her, turning their gaze toward my approaching figure instead. Celine. You've seen it yourself, we've captured Talia. Celine, this master has wronged you. Chapter 5, Celine, shall we revisit our betrothal agreement? I gazed at those familiar yet strangely alien faces, unconsciously running my hand along my own arm. Sure enough, I'm covered in goosebumps already. I couldn't help but ask, have you all lost your minds? All the ridicule and insults I endured, and you think a few casual words can just brush it aside? Stop daydreaming at my words. Everyone present lowered their heads, whether out of shame, no one could tell. Talia, once again overlooked, grew increasingly furious upon realizing nobody truly cared about her. She dropped the act. When the thick demonic aura manifested openly before everyone, even the most hopeful disciples finally abandoned their last shred of delusion. She truly is a demon. Senior Sister Celine had been telling the truth all along. No wonder I always felt manipulated by Junior Sister Talia. Demons possess the power to beguile minds. Amidst the chaotic chatter, no one even noticed when Talia slipped free from her restraints. Talia threw her head back with maniacal laughter. How does it feel, you fools, to be my playthings? Pity you blame everything on me. My bewitching powers have barely been used these years. Admit it, weren't you all secretly jealous of Celine's gifts, waiting to see her fall from grace? Your malice tastes delicious, but this farce ends now. Talia produced a bone flute from nowhere. An eerie, otherworldly melody began playing as Mount Yutin suddenly trembled violently. More numerous and powerful than before, demonic creatures surged forth from the seal one after another. The newly emerged demonic forces joined with their external counterparts, swiftly surrounding the Yutin sect in a tight siege. Haha, I've finally fought my way back. All thanks to Her Highness' brilliant strategy. Look at their faces, absolutely priceless. Nothing pleases me more than seeing that terrified look in their eyes. Hideously deformed demons cackled madly as they mocked my fellow disciples. Enough talk, wipe out these scary sect cultivators now. With each immortal sect we destroy, we demons come closer to ruling all three realms. Talia reverted to her true form, snarling viciously, stripped of her delicate human disguise. Her grotesque demonic visage turned the faces of smitten disciples deathly pale. Who in their right mind would love an ugly, monstrous creature? We're all slaves to appearances. Talia wore a triumphant smirk, but in an instant, her eyes widened in disbelief. An utterly ordinary-looking spirit sword had already pierced through her chest. Talia, the battle isn't over yet. What are you so smug about? The sword strike came from me. Of course, I've been training in seclusion for 3 months. This wasn't some idle retreat. I've always believed the heavens granted me rebirth because they couldn't bear seeing my talent and dedication wasted in my past life. I couldn't care less about winning these blind fools' approval in our sect, but I won't stand idly by while demonic forces invade. Seeing Talia spout nonsense right in the middle of our skyward sex encirclement made my fingers twitch for action. Waited forever, not a single soul made a move. With enemies at our gates, these idiot brothers of mine are still hung up on petty nonsense, letting her show off, unfucking bearable. Talia's grotesque demonic face twisted with bitter resentment. Celine, I should have killed you when I had the chance. I drove the blade deeper with all my strength, piercing clean through her body. Oh really, what a shame, you failed to kill me. And now you're about to die by my hand today. Talia spat blood and fury. She was clearly no match for me, and that last strike had already left her severely wounded. My eyes flickered as I saw her attempt to flee, only to meet another flurry of my blade. How dare you, insolent brat! The demon elder who had remained motionless until now saw my lethal strike and retaliated with a palm strike. This ancient demon had lived for untold years, surpassing me by at least 2 major cultivation realms. There was no way I could withstand this blow. Fortunately, my master reacted in time. Disciples of the Skyran sect, engage. With an icy command, he lunged forward and intercepted the deadly palm strike meant for me. I delivered a sharp kick toward Talia, smug with the belief she'd escaped. Her face still bore traces of triumph when, to her shock, our lightning reflexes sent her crashing down from my decisive strike. The grotesque, hulking black figure crashed to the ground with a thunderous thud. I cracked my knuckles, ready to engage her in some brutal, flesh-pounding close combat. After all, she was basically responsible for that miserable ending in my past life. As Talia's agonized screams echoed relentlessly, our fellow disciples locked in battle with the demons couldn't help but shudder in their bones. The junior sister had been too quiet for too long. They'd nearly forgotten her famously fiery temper. The demon army's initial confidence gradually gave way to exhaustion as the battle wore on. The tide turned unexpectedly. After countless demon soldiers fell, one suddenly shouted, "Trap, there's an array beneath us." The second senior brother coughed up blood again. The poison in his body had just been triggered by Talia, racking his entire being with excruciating pain, yet he still wore that wild, defiant grin. "So you've finally figured it out. Did you really think we'd be unprepared after knowing Talia was a demon all along?" This demonic energy suppression array took me nearly a month to perfect. As he spoke, he coughed several more times. Blood gushed out, looking absolutely horrifying. "Your Highness, didn't you say he was just a useless poison wretch? You call this useless?" The demon clan, getting thoroughly beaten, couldn't help but complain. Every report Talia sent back just called the righteous cultivators stupid and hypocritical. When did she ever mention their actual strength? We thought we'd caught them off guard, but they were fully prepared, and terrifyingly powerful. Watching me cutting through the crowd like a whirlwind, then seeing the senior brother going berserk with his sword, and then there's the master who holds the highest position, yet whose cultivation prowess clearly rivals even the great elders. A sudden doubt arose among the demonic cultivators. Could they truly prevail in this fight? Meanwhile, the fellow disciples burned with greater battle fervor, haunted by the inner voice warning they'd all become cannon fodder should the demon scheme succeed. When one side flees battle while the other burns with fighting spirit, the outcome speaks for itself. I ultimately bisected Talia, drove back the demonic hordes, and, with my master and the sect leaders he'd summoned, reinforced the seal. Those fiends won't trouble us for at least a century. As I sat meditating to regulate my chi, I opened my eyes to find multiple pairs of concerned eyes watching me. "What's with the staring? Shouldn't you all be tending your wounds? TCH, why do I have this sinking feeling again?" Just as I feared. Celine, Chapter 6. The master's voice came out hoarse and strained. "In the past, I've done many wrong things because of Talia. How can I make it up to you? The same goes for our senior disciple brother, Celine. Do you still wish to learn sword techniques from me?" Even the faltering second brother couldn't stay silent. "I was wrong before, Celine. I didn't trust you enough. Can we start over?" The other martial brothers also wore expressions of deep remorse. "But what good is this belated guilt to me now? All I ever wanted was your trust and care from the very beginning." Their behavior changed so drastically that I suspected they might have heard my inner thoughts. But what does it matter? Without even glancing at those people, I returned to my cave abode and entered seclusion once more. Last time was for self-improvement, this time it's simply for peace and quiet. Even seated within my cave abode, I could still sense the outside world. Those who had wronged me, though unforgiven, now knelt outside my cavern dwelling. They knelt in solemn rows, their eyes brimming with remorse and regret. Just yesterday, everyone experienced dreams of their past lives. In their past life, They mindlessly chose to trust Talia while oppressing Selene. The master destroyed her meridians, the senior brother severed her tendons, the second brother pierced her chest, while the other disciples drove her into the cliff of reflection. They stood by like bystanders, watching the once vibrant Selene dim under their suspicion and cruelty. In the end, she was torn apart limb from limb beneath the cliff of reflection. Everyone wept when they woke up. They were desperate to make amends. Pity they won't get that chance from me. My seclusion lasted half a year. Fortunately, cultivators can fast. I endured for ages until finally seizing a moment when no one was kneeling outside, sneaking out to slip down the mountain. By the time the sect noticed my absence, I'd already put hundreds of thousands of miles between us. The cavernous abode stood empty, save for a single letter I'd left behind. The master's face turned ashen as trembling fingers unfolded the parchment. Splashed across the top in flamboyant calligraphy, the rivers and lakes run deep, but our paths shall never cross again. Story 2. In my previous life, I married into the mermaid tribe under the sea, while my sister wed into the wealthy panda clan. She lived in luxury and mocked me for being confined to an oxygen mask forever. Chapter 1. Later, the high-temperature apocalypse erupted, turning the land into charcoal, with only the mermaids hiding deep in the ocean surviving the catastrophe. I kindly took her in, but she coveted my position as the mermaid chieftain's wife. After secretly carrying on with my husband, she plotted to kill me. With my last ounce of strength, I dragged her down with me to death, only to awaken back at the moment when we were choosing our marriages, facing my sister who flaunted her mermaid lover before me. I could only sneer secretly in my heart. Little did she know, the oxygen in the tank would eventually run out one day. I want to marry Orson from the mermaid tribe. In a daze, I heard this familiar voice and instinctively looked up to see my sister Eden clinging to our parents while acting coy. Father frowned. Although the mermaid tribe inhabits the deep sea with oxygen-domed underwater cities, he believed the renowned panda tribe's abundant bamboo forest resources, substantial family wealth, and gentle temperament made them a better choice. In the previous life, Eden thought the same way, so she naturally married Crosby from the panda tribe. While I was forced to wed into the deep-sea mermaid city, while she lived in luxury, I had to spend 10 hours a day in an adaptation chamber, acclimating to the special atmospheric pressure of the underwater city. But soon, the high-temperature apocalypse arrived. The sky turned crimson, the earth became scorched wasteland. And in the face of that despairing heat that incinerated everything, all races, no matter how prosperous or wealthy, were treated equally, except for the mermaid race. In the depths where sunlight cannot reach, the mermaid city became the last surviving paradise. Eden narrowly escaped death by fleeing underwater in an escape pod. Seeking my protection, I took her in, yet she remained insatiable. When I caught her and Orson in bed together, she showed no panic, but rather a smug expression of triumph. Althea, now that it's come to this, I might as well tell you, I've been slowly poisoning you all along. You have only days left to live. Once you're dead, I'll rightfully become the mermaid clan's madam. Overwhelmed by rage, I coughed up a mouthful of blood, watching this despicable pair chat and laugh nonchalantly while discussing how to fabricate my cause of death right in front of me. I gritted my teeth, drew a dagger from my waist, and with all my strength, thrust it toward Eden. The moment the blade pierced her abdomen, I distinctly felt my heart stop beating. Never did I expect heaven's mercy would grant me a second chance at life. Under Eden's relentless pestering, our parents had no choice but to consent to her marrying the merman, then immediately turned to me saying, "It's your sister who yielded this splendid match to you. You should be grateful and repay your sister's kindness." Eden eagerly clung to Orson's arm to flaunt her victory, even declaring without restraint, "Little sister, you just marry into the panda clan and enjoy whatever days remain. Soon enough, you'll be roasted alive." Watching this fool who'd been reborn from the apocalypse yet still obsessed with petty feminine rivalry, I rolled my eyes, refusing to waste another word on her. Her foolish brain couldn't possibly comprehend that sunlight can't reach the ocean floor where green leaves don't grow. When the gas pipelines fail under high temperatures, she'll suffocate to death without developing gills. Just like in the previous life, the wedding was quickly put on the agenda. In my past life, my parents excused themselves from attending my wedding, claiming it was inconvenient to travel to the underwater mermaid city. This time, with the roles reversed, my parents' excuse became, "Your sister is marrying into such a distant, dark place, of course we must accompany her." Despite the weddings being on different dates allowing them to attend both, they chose to abandon me without hesitation. Eden looked at me triumphantly, but having been reborn, I was no longer confined by such trivial matters. I simply nodded indifferently. "Oh, then go ahead." Failing to see disappointment or hurt on my face, Eden seemed angered. With a scornful laugh, she urged our parents to pack their bags, saying they'd move permanently to Mermaid City. When our parents hesitated slightly, Eden immediately pressed, "Come on, just trust me. Would I ever harm you?" I can't explain everything now, but you'll understand when the time comes. Then she slowly turned her gaze back to me. As for you, little sister, don't blame me for not caring about you. If you really want to go, you'd better beg me properly. I might mercifully consider taking you along. I rolled my eyes coldly and walked away without looking back. Eden shouted angrily behind me, Althea, don't you regret this, remember. I gave you a chance. Crosby said he wanted to give me the most romantic and grand wedding, but I stopped him and told him to save the money. He frowned in confusion. The Panda clan has abundant resources, there's no need to save money. I looked at the still azure sky, brows slightly furrowed, but what I need to do will cost a lot of money, a tremendous amount, so much that even the entire Panda clan's wealth might not be enough, even, possibly requiring selling all your bamboo. Crosby froze and asked, what are you planning to do? I took a deep breath and laid out everything about the high-temperature apocalypse to him. The words were shocking, yet he listened attentively, without questioning or interrupting, just silently hearing me recount all the horrors I'd personally experienced. So, before the apocalypse arrives, we need to build a sanctuary. I let out a long sigh. I know it's hard to believe right now, but in just 2 months you'll see. To be honest, I don't believe it. Crosby finally spoke up, but if you're truly convinced, then go ahead, I'll support you fully. I froze for a moment, but Crosby took advantage of my daze to gently grasp my hand. The rough palm transmitted a comforting warmth. We're husband and wife, 2 people sharing one heart. I don't believe in any doomsday, but I believe in you. We pandas always listen to our wives. For some reason, I felt my face grow warm. An unfamiliar flutter stirred in my heart. Building a shelter isn't easy. To completely isolate from the extreme heat outside, we need the most advanced dome technology. Looking across the world, when it comes to dome construction technology, none surpass the mermaid race who built their city-state beneath the sea. I never expected to be involved with Eden again so soon. I originally intended to go alone, but Crosby insisted on coming along no matter what. The tranquil deep sea devours light, with only the submarine's faint beams illuminating the path ahead. The familiar sensation seems to pull me back to my past life. I shake my head to steady my mind, while Crosby supports my shoulder from behind, feeling a bit unwell. The special atmospheric pressure puts too much strain on the human body. You should rest properly later. I'll handle the negotiations for purchasing the dome technology. Chapter 2. I didn't feel particularly affected by the pressure, but the thought of discussing the dome technology purchase with Orson face-to-face made me nod in agreement to let Crosby go alone. Then I'll leave it to you. The submarine docked at a special entrance, revealing the mermaid city encased in a thick metallic eggshell. The dim lighting and thin oxygen made it an inhospitable place for humans. Yet Eden, who had come specifically to greet me, looked remarkably energetic. With coral in her hair and pearls around her neck, she seemed to be trying her hardest to show me how well she was doing. After just a couple of polite exchanges, she covered her mouth and giggled. Had a tough summer this year, little sister. Must have been scorching, right? Be careful not to get heatstroke. I rolled my eyes silently on my end, while my parents' scolding voices came through from the side. Why do you care about her? That ungrateful thing forgot about her own family after getting married, hasn't shown us any concern for so long. Forget it, let's just pretend we never had such a little, wide-eyed wolf. At least our Eden is filial, even after marriage knows to have parents come live together. Eden truly revels in her parents' blatant favoritism and biased treatment. She's been like this since childhood, desperate to monopolize all her parents' love, yet hypocritically saying, oh, my sister probably didn't mean it, maybe she just forgot. After all, she's never had a good life before. Now that she's finally married into wealth, it's understandable she'd get carried away in the moment. I sneered. Come to think of it, I haven't even asked how my dear sister is doing. How's your brother-in-law doing? Does he treat your sister well? The laughter suddenly choked. Eden even gritted his teeth. He's doing just fine. No need for your concern. After saying just that, Eden turned his head away and ignored me. I secretly sneered in my heart. What kind of person Orson is, wouldn't I know? In my past life, I married into the mermaid city. To adapt to the special atmospheric pressure, I had to spend most of my time in an adaptation chamber. The remaining time was spent feeling dizzy and nauseous, leaving no opportunity for a honeymoon with Orson, so he cheated on me. Even after I found out, he had the audacity to blame me for not serving and attending to him properly, failing in my wifely duties. Ugh, Eden and Orson, those 2 peas in a pod, deserve each other. Eden originally wanted to invite me to her place, saying something like, though my home isn't as luxurious as the Panda clan's, it's still cozy and refined, but Crosby had already booked the most luxurious hotel's top-tier suite, even arranging a dedicated mermaid chauffeur. With 3 elite chefs on board preparing snacks and drinks in real time, Eden nearly gritted her teeth to dust, her carefully composed emotions shattered once more by this overwhelming sense of disparity. I boarded the vehicle under her envious gaze, waving goodbye to her, lying on the bed in the room, my eardrums buzzed due to the air pressure, inevitably feeling dizzy and lightheaded. I let out a long sigh, rubbing my temples, unable to shake off my worries about Crosby's deal with Orson. Wondering if things were going smoothly on his end, drifting in and out of sleep, I was finally awakened by faint rustling sounds in the middle of the night, opening my eyes to see Crosby tiptoeing into the room. Seeing I was awake, Crosby's eyes welled up with tears as he looked at me pitifully. "Honey, I didn't achieve what you wanted." My heart immediately leaped to my throat. "They wouldn't sell." Crosby kept shaking his head, tears nearly spilling from his eyes. "Honey, will you think I'm useless and abandon me?" Then he gritted his teeth and revealed his panda ears. "Please don't leave me, you can touch my ears." Crosby was dressed in black and white, with a soft expression that instantly melted my heart. "I won't abandon you. I'll build the largest sanctuary in this post-apocalyptic world for you, to construct a safe zone capable of withstanding the apocalypse. We must obtain the mermaid tribe's dome-building technology." Though extremely reluctant, I still had to go meet Orson. On the second day, carrying gifts prepared since morning, I paid a visit under the pretense of family reunion. This was Orson's first time seeing me in this lifetime, his gaze scanning me with novel curiosity several times, only withdrawing when Crosby stepped in front of me with a darkened expression, just as Orson was about to agree in his elated state. Eden suddenly let out a cold snort, smiling with such hostility that he didn't even bother pretending anymore. "Althea, can't you stop being so willful? You want everything you see. The dome technology is the merfolk's highest level secret, something you can't just demand." Eden's words instantly made the atmosphere in the room turn grave, but I was secretly laughing in my heart. Everything unfolded as I predicted. Orson, whose speech was interrupted, immediately turned cold-faced and glared at Eden with hostility. I spoke up at the right moment. "Oh, how forgetful of me. Sister has always been domineering at home, and it seems marriage hasn't diminished her ability to keep brother-in-law firmly under her thumb. I suppose the mermaid clan has long been under sister's command." Eden also realized it was all my scheme, showing clear panic on his face, but by then it was already too late. Orson let out a cold laugh. I've always had the final say in all household matters. What does a woman know? It's just dome manufacturing technology. If I say I'll give it to you, then I will." Chapter 3. Eden's face flushed with humiliation, cycling through shades of green and white in a rather spectacular display, yet she dared not openly confront Orson, terrified of being cast out when the apocalypse came, so she swallowed her pride and kept her head down in silence. Crosby hastily fetched paper and pen, swiftly finalizing the contract with Orson, then turned to shoot me exaggerated winks and meaningful glances. Eden also turned her gaze toward me, her eyes brimming with unconcealed malice. I raised an eyebrow and flashed her an innocent, harmless smile. The entire plan proceeded as smoothly as I had anticipated. To avoid complications, we immediately planned to return to the Panda Clan after obtaining the relevant technology. The Panda Clan's territory mostly consists of rolling mountain ranges with lush green bamboo. I envisioned constructing a grand dome to encompass the entire mountain range. Just hearing about it makes it clear this would be a monumental project. Crosby told me to go ahead and do it, saying the Panda Clan has abundant resources and sufficient funds. I still feel uneasy, as this concerns our survival, and we don't have much time to spare. After much deliberation, I want to rally other beastmen to join us. They can contribute funds for the sanctuary's construction, and when the apocalypse comes, we can provide them shelter, doing our part to save more lives. However, after spreading the word, the feedback we received wasn't ideal. Most orcs scoffed at this claim, saying the Panda Clan's new wife must be insane, openly and covertly recommending doctors to me. Some even believed we were using this as a gimmick to scam money. I knew gaining their trust immediately would be difficult, so I stopped pushing and focused on accelerating the construction progress. Soon summer arrived, with temperatures soaring rapidly and easily breaking historical records. Panic began to spread among the crowd, with many people investing some money in building shelters just to give it a try. Of course, this did not include the mermaid tribe. The mermaid tribe was isolated from information. Despite my high-profile construction of shelters, the news hadn't even reached Eden's ears. She still sent messages to harass me every now and then, mostly asking sarcastically if I was feeling hot or sending photos flaunting her own life. I just glanced at it, casually tossed my phone aside, and continued supervising the construction of the shelter area. Time is tight, no room to waste it with her here. Time flew by, and this summer was particularly brutal. Droughts plagued nearly the entire world, with scorching temperatures frequently sparking wildfires, even when autumn arrived. There was no sign of cooling. As temperatures kept rising relentlessly, the beast folk finally began to panic in earnest. I publicly stated, those willing to contribute funds and labor now will gain access to the sanctuary later. If anyone wants to build their own, I'm also willing to openly share the technology and experience. A large number of orcs flooded into the Panda clan's territory. With financial and manpower support, we raced against time to complete the dome's construction. The temperature control system and water circulation system were also basically completed. High-efficiency solar panels with extreme heat resistance continuously provided power. Watching the vegetable seedlings thriving in the fields, I finally let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as if a huge weight had been lifted from my chest. Perhaps I had truly overexerted myself during the previous period. The moment I relaxed, I unexpectedly fell ill. The doctor said my illness wasn't serious and I just needed proper rest, but Crosby still couldn't relax and stayed by my side throughout the nights. Actually, ever since we got married, I've always been very busy, and we've never had such prolonged time alone together like this before. Feeling drowsy and listless, Crosby hummed a tune to lull me to sleep. I smiled and said, "You sing so beautifully, you should become a star. The Panda clan would surely become famous because of you." He scratched his head somewhat sheepishly. "My mother taught me this. She used to sing me to sleep like this when I was little. If she were still here and knew I'd married you, she'd be so happy." Crosby's mother passed away several years ago. I could only hold his hand and say softly, "Yes, he would surely be happy for you." That day we talked a lot. He told me childhood anecdotes, shared dreams hidden in bamboo groves, while I confided about parental favoritism and grievances no one knew. I don't know how I fell asleep, but when I woke up, Crosby was holding me in his arms. He was tall and powerfully built, easily enveloping me completely in his embrace. Probably worried I'd feel cold, though maintaining his human form, he conjured up a coat of black and white fur, soft and smooth, making me unable to resist giving it a good rub. Rubbing his eyes, he sat up to check on me, asking if I was feeling better. After a nap, I was already feeling much better and pestered him to turn into a panda so I could pet him. Crosby was actually quite shy, but unable to resist my pleading, he finally shifted into his beast form, a chubby, round panda. Who could possibly resist this? With a satisfied expression, I threw myself into his arms, wrapped my hands around his neck, and nuzzled my face vigorously against his shoulder before finally letting him go. He ran away blushing, while I burst into laughter behind him. Unfortunately, the carefree days didn't last long. The sky, which hadn't seen rain for half a year, suddenly turned gloomy, as if brewing a terrible storm. I know, these are the omens of the apocalypse's beginning. The parched land yearns for rain, but the dark clouds dispersed without shedding a single drop. Moreover, the sky after the clouds cleared was crimson red. Then, almost overnight, the already unbearably high temperatures surged even more violently. The sunlight scorched, trees spontaneously combusted, rivers boiled, the earth cracked, and under the blood-red sky, the entire world descended into a burning apocalypse. The high-temperature apocalypse has officially begun. Our shelter area was very well constructed, attracting many homeless orcs to flock here. Many races originally participated in the construction of the shelter, moving in with their families, plus refugees fleeing here, bringing the total population of the shelter to nearly 3,000 people. Many who contributed resources and effort to building the shelter initially opposed accepting refugees, but after intense discussions, Crosby and I still decided to help as many distressed people as possible. There were still many opposing voices until I said, "The entire shelter is so large that both maintenance and basic production require manpower." Chapter 4. Only then were the opposing voices finally silenced. Though overwhelmed, the shelter eventually began operating in an orderly manner. With ample reserves of food and medicine, the injured were immediately sent for treatment, able-bodied workers were promptly assigned tasks, and all races united in the face of disaster to jointly build a new kingdom. With everyone's admiration, Crosby and I naturally became the leaders, with our daily work being to manage all matters within the shelter. I also launched many drones, doing my best to search for refugees. As time passed, fewer and fewer people exposed to the sunlight remained alive, with bones and charred remains everywhere. But just then, I unexpectedly spotted a group of familiar people. It was Eden and my parents struggling to pull a water tank, their sunshade almost melting from the heat. It seems the oxygen supply system in Mermaid City has completely failed. Even mermaids need to surface for air, but now the water surface and entire shallow zone have become too hot for prolonged stays, forcing Orson to join them on their quest for shelter. Orson was never suited for arid weather. Weak and frail, he floated in a water tank while his sister and parents struggled to push him forward. Despite this, Orson kept cursing incessantly. "Hurry up, are you trying to bake me to death?" I was momentarily surprised. Could it be that Eden's feelings for Orson ran so deep that she'd still be willing to bring him along at such a time, until I heard Orson say, "If it weren't for my connections with the mole people, you'd all be left waiting for death." Only then did I nod in understanding. That makes more sense. What kind of emotions could Eden possibly have? It's all about profit. Crosby appeared beside me at some point, seemingly having overheard the conversation between Eden and Orson. After stroking his chin thoughtfully for a moment, he said, "If I recall correctly, the mole people have also fled en masse to our sanctuary." I was momentarily surprised. "Really?" Crosby nodded confidently. Although mole people are accustomed to living underground, frequent volcanic activity caused by the extreme heat has already caused their subterranean cities to collapse. I raised an eyebrow at Eden, so all their tremendous efforts had been in vain. On the monitor, the parents, already aged, were panting as they pushed the water tank. Orson continued to scold, while a fleeting look of venom crossed Eden's face before she gritted her teeth and lowered her head in silence. Suddenly, I became intrigued. If Eden went through all the trouble of dragging Orson to the mole people's territory only to find ruins, would she slice him into sashimi on the spot? That really is somewhat something to look forward to. Under the scorching sun, Eden and her group soon suffered from red, swollen, and burned skin, forcing them to stop and rest. While Orson kept berating them for being useless, the father couldn't stand being scolded by a junior pointing fingers at him, so he told Orson to keep quiet. To his surprise, Orson snorted coldly and actually slapped him across the face. "You old fool, still daring to lecture me. Who do you think you are?" Furious, the father was interrupted by Eden frowning and saying, "Dad, can't you be more considerate? Save your energy for the journey, won't you? Must you make everyone unhappy right now?" Seeing his own daughter siding with outsiders, the father was beside himself with rage, but he was clearly the one who, "All right," Eden let out a heavy sigh, "no one is blaming you anyway." Even mother nodded in agreement. "Look at you, at your age, still less sensible than your daughter. Get some proper rest now, there'll be plenty of hard work later." Father felt a lump in his throat but suddenly froze. It suddenly occurred to him. This scene had played out countless times before. It's just that in the past, it was always me standing in his position. No one cared about right or wrong, nor did anyone concern themselves with the grievances he suffered. They simply criticized him relentlessly, while Eden pretended to be magnanimous and unbothered, forcing him to swallow all his bitterness in silence. I watched the scene coldly on the screen, sneering at the lost expression on my father's face. They continued walking forward, but gradually their strength began to fail, likely from not having eaten for a long time, until Eden stumbled and fell to the ground. The mother quickly helped her up, only to see that she was already so hungry her vision was blurring. Seeing their food supplies long depleted, the mother was as frantic as an ant on a hot pan. When Orson snorted and coldly remarked, "Isn't there meat right on your bodies?" the mother froze instantly, and Eden happened to wake up leisurely at that very moment. Grabbing her mother's hand, "Mom, you've always loved me the most since I was little, right?" The mother recoiled as if shocked, stepping back 2 paces, staring in disbelief at the daughter she'd nurtured since childhood. Chapter 5, Eden's eyes welled up with tears. "How can you be so selfish? I'm starving to death, and just 2 slices of meat could keep us both alive. It's just 2 slices of meat, it won't kill you." I couldn't bear to watch the scenes that followed. Just hearing those words made me feel waves of nausea churning inside me. The sickening feeling lingered for a long time, and I even vomited during dinner. Crosby quickly called for a doctor. I explained that I just felt nauseous from seeing something inappropriate, but the doctor shook his head and said, "No, you're pregnant." My eyes widened in disbelief as I touched my abdomen, feeling waves of warmth. Could there really be a new life growing inside me? Crosby became extremely anxious, practically glued to my side 24/7, while I happily enjoyed the leisure time resting at home during my pregnancy. With nothing better to do, I pulled up the drone's surveillance feed again. Eden and the group finally arrived at the territory of the mole people. Orson had already abandoned that large water tank, looking extremely weak and on the verge of dehydration. The parents were supporting each other, and upon closer inspection, the mother's steps were slightly unsteady. Surprisingly, Eden was in the best condition among them. Seeing the mole people's cave entrance already buried under a pile of fallen rocks, she even had the energy to grab Orson by the neck and yell, "Didn't you say the mole people could definitely survive the heat apocalypse by digging underground? What now? What do we do now?" Eden and Orson quickly got into a physical fight, while the parents just stood by indifferently. Soon, Eden was overpowered, knocked to the ground by 2 slaps. and knelt there wailing loudly. They could only eke out a meager existence until one day, they encountered another survivor. That survivor told them that if they kept heading south, they would eventually see a massive shelter. As if grasping their last hope, the group desperately rushed in this direction. Guards were specially assigned at the shelter's entrance to receive refugees. The 4 members of Eden's group, trembling with emotion, passed through a long passage and suddenly saw lush greenery, their eyes moistening with the urge to cry. The guard, unfazed by this scene, gave Eden a firm pat on the shoulder. "Don't worry, the shelter welcomes all refugees. Our 2 leaders are both very benevolent. This will be your new home from now on." But at that very moment, I appeared. When Eden saw me, the excitement on her face instantly turned to terror. She probably guessed something but refused to admit it. Shaking her head tremblingly, how are you still alive? You should have been burned to death long ago in that heat along with that stupid panda." I chuckled. These people must be heatstruck. They can't even recognize the territory of the panda clan. It was only then that Orson seemed to suddenly realize, this dome. "So when you bought the dome from me, it was for this?" I nodded. "That's right. This is exactly why." "No. Throw them all out. The shelter doesn't welcome them." Eden immediately knelt down, tugging at my clothes and pleading, Sister, we're family. I know I used to be competitive and said many harsh things, but I never actually harmed you." I gently placed a finger to my lips, shushed, then lowered my voice to a whisper only the 2 of us could hear. "And what about in our past life, when you seduced my husband and then tried to poison me? Should that just be forgotten?" Eden's face was full of shock, her eyes almost popping out of their sockets, her pallid face devoid of any color, her lips trembling too much to speak. Orson suddenly shoved her violently to the ground, as if to prove his loyalty, and kicked her away. "I know this wretch once insulted you. I'm cutting all ties with her right now. Take me in. I'm also a homeless refugee. This shelter was successfully built using our merfolk's dome technology. I contributed to it too." Eden's helpless gaze turned to her parents, only to find them declaring, "Althea, we were wrong before. We were deceived by her and made you suffer so much. It won't happen again. From now on, we'll live together as a proper family." Eden screamed in, "Mom and Dad, how could you do this? I'm your most beloved daughter." Eden knelt and lunged forward, trying to grab her parents' clothes, but they, as if avoiding something filthy, her mother, who had always doted on her, gritted her teeth fiercely. "It's all my fault for being blind before, neglecting Althea and favoring you. I never thought you could be such a heartless wretch. I might as well have never given birth to you." Amid Eden's cries, I smiled and started clapping. "What a great show, but it seems you've misunderstood something. I don't just hate Eden alone." Eden and his group were thrown out of the shelter. In the scorching post-apocalyptic world, only death awaits them. They continued to argue, blaming each other, until it escalated into a violent fight. Eden killed Orson by smashing him with a large rock, then stumbled forward like a madman until exhausting his last ounce of strength. Under the blazing sun, his body quickly withered into a pile of bones. Before dying, the parents were still gazing toward the shelter, their clouded old eyes shedding 2 streams of tears. Through the drone, I could hear them apologizing to me, but I no longer needed it. I had long stopped begging for the pitiful scraps of so-called affection they doled out. Now I have a family who truly loves me. Several months passed in a flash, and I successfully gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Crosby was so overjoyed he didn't know what to do with his hands. The 2 children were named Ronan and Celia respectively. The shelter developed in an orderly manner, with the first batch of crops yielding a bountiful harvest. We then established a school within the shelter, ensuring all children of appropriate age could attend to learn knowledge and skills, while also teaching them about what the world outside the shelter once lived like. We must not let the disaster sever the continuity of our civilization. Many years passed, and the children grew up healthy, under the leadership of Crosby and myself. The shelter continued to thrive and prosper. One day, the drones finally detected that the external temperature had been decreasing continuously for 2 years. Then came a half-year-long torrential downpour, washing away everything on the ground as if to cleanse all the ashes left by the scorching sun. Finally, we tentatively opened the dome, and what greeted our eyes was a familiar yet unfamiliar lush green world and an endless azure sky. Chapter 6. The children tugged at my clothes with curiosity and timidity, while Crosby and I were already in tears. Long time no see. World. Story 2. After being reborn, I spent 800 million yuan on buying an old bookstore. When my parents found out, they scolded me for being unfilial and said that I had money but didn't spend it on my younger brother. But they didn't know that the end of the world was approaching, and all kinds of strange and eerie things would run amok. And I could summon the gods from the books. For example, I invite the gods with my blood. Can the great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong, come to my aid? The next second, the sky and the earth changed color, and the Rui golden cudgel emerged out of thin air. Old Sun is here. 1. I am Lucia. On the day I was born, flocks of crows circled over the roof of my house, and even the dead mice in the house came back to life, turned over, and ran outside, coupled with the sixth finger on my right hand. I became a well-known bane in the neighborhood and was not liked at home. In my previous life, for the so-called family affection, I tolerated my parents who favored sons over daughters every time. Even when food was scarce during the end of the world, I cut the flesh from my own body and gave it to them to eat with my own hands. In the end, they indulged my younger brother, Jason, who kicked me into the mouth of an evil ghost. Before I died, I saw Jason awakening his lightning-based superpower with the sixth finger that he had cut off from my hand. It turned out that the sixth finger, which had always made me regarded as a bane, was a key to superpowers. Probably God took pity on me and gave me a chance to live my life again. There was even a system telling me that I could awaken my superpowers. But I had to buy a dilapidated and ancient bookstore in the south of the city first. The owner of the bookstore was a blind old grandpa. When he heard that I wanted to buy the bookstore, he directly asked for 800 million yuan. At that time, I was only 17 years old, not to mention 800 million yuan. I didn't even have 80 yuan. I pleaded with him in every possible way, but the grandpa refused to make any concessions. Finally, a beautiful elder sister in a cheongsam passed by, heard our conversation, and said that she could lend me 800 million yuan, but the price was that I owed her a wish. I gritted my teeth and agreed. She gave me a black card with a beaming smile and then disappeared around the corner of the street. She even refused to leave her name for me, but fortunately, I successfully bought this bookstore. At this time, there were still 3 days before the end of the world. As a result, the next day, my parents somehow learned that I had spent 800 million yuan on buying a shabby bookstore. They came to my place with my younger brother Jason, who is 1 year younger than me, and loudly scolded me for being unfilial. Everyone, come and take a look. The daughter I raised secretly took 800 million yuan, but didn't give a single cent to her parents. She was even deceived into buying such a shabby bookstore. My father shouted with his loud voice, afraid that there weren't enough onlookers. My mother hugged Jason beside her and echoed, "It's a misfortune for our family." Jason, on the other hand, stared coldly at the sixth finger on my right hand in her arms. If it were in my previous life, I would probably have felt ashamed and sorry for them. I touched my arm expressionlessly. The pain of having my flesh cut in my previous life seemed to still be there. I smiled coldly and had no intention of paying attention to them. I closed the door and wanted to go and have a meal. As a result, my mother suddenly rushed over and hugged my thigh. My father also rushed into my bookstore at this time, mumbling, "I don't believe that 800 million yuan was used to buy this shabby bookstore. She must have hidden some money." Seeing that he started rummaging around, I was so anxious that I wanted to stop him, but I couldn't shake off my mother no matter what. She was still pinching the flesh on my thigh and scolding me. "You really are a bane. If it weren't for you, this 800 million yuan would definitely belong to our Jason. How could a bane like you get 800 million yuan? You must have sold yourself." Enduring the pain on my thigh, I just thought it was ridiculous. I looked down at my mother with a vicious expression, and tears fell from my eyes involuntarily. "Is this how you talk about your daughter? You're not my daughter, you bane. I, Cecilia, only have one son, Jason." Hearing these words, the last trace of family affection in my heart was wiped out by her own hands. I wiped the tears from my face, steeled my heart, grabbed Cecilia's hair, and threw her to the side. Then I took a kitchen knife and rushed into the bookstore, pointing at my father, Xavier, who was still flipping through the books. "Are you going to get out or not?" Xavier sneered, as if he was certain that I didn't dare to kill anyone. He even moved his neck closer to me and said, "Come on, cut here. If you cut me, you'll go to jail." Hearing this, I laughed. Go to jail? The day after tomorrow is the arrival of the end of the world. By then, there will be ghosts and monsters all over the world, and there will be countless cases of murder and robbery. At that time, killing people will be the most normal thing. I took 2 steps forward, raised the kitchen knife with a cold face, and slashed at his neck. In the end, it was Jason who rushed in and pulled him back, so he managed to dodge. Xavier was so scared by my action that cold sweat streamed down his face, and he called me a lunatic. I directly went crazy as he said, waving the kitchen knife randomly, crawling on the ground in a sinister way, rolling my eyes, and spitting. He was so scared that he quickly pulled Jason and walked out. As soon as he went out, I directly closed the door and let the 3 of them scold me outside. It doesn't matter. I don't care about these things. I, Lucia, am an unfilial bane. Can anyone do anything to me? No. 2. Xavier and his wife, along with Jason. made a scene in front of my bookstore for another 2 days. At first, there were people gathering around to watch, but later everyone got tired of it, and no one paid attention to them at all, until the day the end of the world arrived. They were still scolding me as a bane at my door and splashing chicken blood on my shop door. However, Jason didn't come today. Just as the chicken blood was slowly dripping down, a mechanical male voice appeared in my mind. The end of the world has arrived. Congratulations to the host, Lucia, for unlocking the skill, summoning the gods. At the same time, a strong wind blew up, and the originally clear sky was covered with dark clouds. There was thunder and lightning. The breath of the end of the world rushed towards us. The funeral parlor across the street suddenly raised a towering black chi. Countless undead spirits burst out and rushed out one after another to suck the essence from people's bodies. Countless people immediately turned into mummies. The remaining people screamed and fled in all directions. A massive black chi ran towards Xavier and the other person. They were so scared that they ran towards me to seek shelter, but no matter how they shouted, I didn't open the door. Just when I thought that Xavier and the other person were going to die, a yellow talisman came breaking through the wind. It forcibly scattered the undead spirit into pieces. I turned my head and saw a tall and slender white-haired teenager in a black Chinese-style jacket, wearing a miniature yellow talisman earring on his left ear, yawning as he walked out of the morning apparel store next door. Yo, the end of the world has finally arrived. These words. Was he also reborn? I carefully sized him up. Maybe my gaze was too straightforward, so he turned his head and looked at me. Only then did I realize that he had double pupils. In my previous life, the evil ghost that devoured me was transformed from a person with double pupils, and he occupied a territory and became a ghost that harmed countless people. I suddenly clenched my fists and stared at him as he walked towards the funeral parlor. The yellow talismans in his hand were thrown out as if they were free. Clumps of black chi of the undead spirits were hit and dissipated. However, due to the large number of undead spirits, the white-haired teenager didn't notice that a massive black chi gradually circled behind him and was getting closer. I originally didn't want to care about this. Unexpectedly, the system in my mind suddenly gave me a task. Please, host Lucia, prevent Sam from turning into an evil ghost. So his name was Sam, I thought silently, suddenly opened the door, and rushed towards Sam. At the same time, my mind moved, and the bookstore that was already connected to my sea of consciousness automatically selected a book about the culture of the underworld. It appeared in my palm out of thin air. My eyes froze, and I bit open my middle finger and pressed the blood on the book. I invite the ghosts and gods with my blood, the black and white soul reapers, come and help me quickly. Suddenly, a black and a white figure appeared behind me. With a movement of my mind, they rushed towards Sam. As soon as the morning staff of the black impermanence fell, the death chi that wanted to sneak attack Sam dissipated with a poof sound. The white impermanence, with a smile and his long tongue sticking out, ran in front of Sam. With a flick of his soul-hooking hook, dozens of undead spirits were trapped by him. Sam was stunned by the sudden change. The white impermanence immediately turned his head to look at him, tilted his head, and said with a smile, "You blockhead, throw the talisman." Only then did Sam react and throw a more powerful yellow talisman into the pile of trapped undead spirits. The undead spirits immediately scattered into pieces. With the cooperation of the three of them, in a short while, all the undead spirits in the funeral parlor were eliminated. The black and white soul reapers floated back in front of me, bowed to me, and in unison, they left a sentence. When the sixth finger and double pupils appear, the ghost gate of the other world opens. Then they turned into smoke and drilled into the center of my eyebrows. Along with the book, they returned to my Sea of Consciousness bookstore. At the same time, my strength seemed to be suddenly drained away, my legs went weak, and I almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Sam, who walked up to me, was quick-eyed and grabbed me into his arms. He lowered his eyes, and his long eyelashes cast a shadow in his eyes. "Are you okay?" I shook my head and was about to say that it was nothing serious. Then Cecilia splashed the remaining chicken blood towards me, and she was still cursing me like a madwoman, saying that I was a monster. Sam turned around and blocked the chicken blood for me. A few drops of blood splashed on his cold and lazy face, adding a bit of eeriness to him for no reason. Everyone has seen it. This person is a bane, a monster. It must be her who let those ghosts out. Cecilia pointed at me in curse, and the flesh on her face trembled. The people who had just fled in fear carefully came closer and pointed at me, but no one dared to affirm Cecilia's words loudly. After all, I had indeed saved them just now. There was still thunder and lightning in the distance, but Cecilia was still thinking about that 800 million yuan here. "You bane, hurry up and return the 800 million yuan to my Jason, otherwise, I won't let you go." Xavier also hypocritically said at this time, "Sixth finger, return the 800 million yuan to us." Your mother and I can still reluctantly speak a few words for you. I was so angry at their rascality and partiality that my whole body trembled. I'm telling you to get lost. Scram. Xavier's face changed. He tore off the mask of being nice just now and called me a jinx. As he was scolding, he even grabbed Sam's clothes and said, "You have an affair with this little jinx, right? Did you give her that 800 million yuan? I'm telling you, if you want to marry my daughter, the betrothal gift must be transferred to my account, that is to say, you have to give me 10 billion yuan. Sam frowned in disgust at his words. With a light kick, he kicked Xavier 5 meters away. He sneered and said, 10 billion yuan. If I had 10 billion yuan, would I still be running this morning apparel store here? Give you 10 billion yuan, go to hell, don't even look at the time when you're dreaming. The seemingly kind and refined teenager didn't hold back when cursing people. He didn't pay any more attention to Xavier and his wife. He easily picked me up in a princess carry and carried me back to the bookstore. Xavier still wanted to rush in and ask me for money. As a result, Sam picked up the kitchen knife I put on the front desk, pointed at him lazily, and said, "Come on, get closer. If I can't kill you, an old fool, it means I didn't eat enough for breakfast." Xavier stopped in his tracks. After scolding a few words, he pulled Cecilia back home with an embarrassed look. Only then did Sam close the door and come over to pour me a glass of water. When I took the water cup, I heard him ask, "What kind of secret technique of which sect was that just now?" I took a sip of water and didn't answer. He clicked his tongue and didn't press me for an answer. He got up and went back to his morning apparel store. Before leaving, he said that if I had anything, I could directly find him. Looking at his back, I couldn't help but wonder about his identity. Unexpectedly, the next second, the system came out to answer for me. Sam, a disciple of the inner sect of the Shushan school, is 17 years old, male, likes women, 185 centimeters tall, weighs 77 kilograms, and has a high school education level. The Shushan school, that's really amazing. No wonder he could become an evil ghost in a certain area. Just 3 days after the end of the world arrived, the world was in chaos. The internet could still be used reluctantly, and the trending searches were simply like a record of all kinds of ghosts: the spirit of the writing brush, zombies, the Slender Man, the nine-tailed fox demon, the nine-headed Shengliu, and other fictional ghosts and demons broke out all over the world and were photographed by people. For a moment, the whole world fell into panic, but at the same time, many people also awakened their superpowers and fought against these ghosts and demons. After all, the continuous evolution to adapt to the environment is the instinct of living beings. Just as I was scrolling through the trending searches, the door of the store was knocked. It was Sam. He looked quite anxious. "Satan the devil has appeared in the store that sells pork. My talismans can't hurt him. He'll be here to kill us soon. Let's run." I looked at him calmly and took out a Bible in return. "With your sister Lucia here, why run?" Sam was stunned. "Damn, you can also take on foreign business." Under his surprised gaze, I threw the Bible in my hand into the air. The pages were immediately blown apart by the strong wind and surrounded me, as I used my right thumb to draw small crosses on my forehead, lips, and chest respectively. A warm white holy light gradually enveloped me. Amen. The moment the words fell, Jesus appeared in front of me, carrying a cross. I raised my hand and pointed in the direction of Satan. The cross was directly thrown out and pierced through Satan, who was still doing evil. The holy light spread from his wound and purified him little by little until he disappeared. Both Sam and I were stunned. What a rough way of fighting. With the disappearance of Satan, Jesus gently raised his hand, and the cross automatically flew back as if it had a navigation system. Jesus turned around and tapped his index finger on my forehead. A ray of light entered my mind. The cold voice of the system appeared at this time. "Congratulations to the host for obtaining the God-level defense skill, the protection of Jesus. This skill can protect you from the harm of Western ghosts and monsters." After the system explained, Jesus also turned back into light spots and entered every page of the Bible, returning to my Sea of Consciousness bookstore. As soon as I came back to my senses, I met Sam's gaze as if he had seen a ghost. "Who on earth are you?" "An ordinary person named Lucia." Sam was rendered speechless by my answer. But the next second he became excited again. His double pupils were full of excitement. "Since you're so powerful, let's form a team to save the world." To be honest, at this moment, I doubted my ears, but Sam had already envisioned the future in just 2 seconds. "The two of us together will definitely be invincible in the world. We'll become a ray of light in this end of the world. Sam, am the savior." I silently took a step back, keeping away from this Chunibyo teenager. meaning a teenager with a delusional or over-the-top mindset, but he took a step forward and grabbed my arm, his eyes shining brightly. "Lucia, promise me, damn it." He looked like this, and those who didn't know might have thought he was proposing. Before I could figure out how to answer, Cecilia and Xavier somehow ran out from some corner and grabbed my sleeve, starting to cry. "Lucia, please help Mom find your brother. I don't know where he went yesterday, by the way. Quickly call out those black and white things from yesterday to protect me and your mom, or that one who threw the cross just now will do too." I was almost speechless. Could these two have even thicker skins? Just as I was about to speak, Sam beside me couldn't stand it anymore and said first, "Come on, do you really think you're some big shot? You even dare to order the black and white soul reapers to protect you? I think you two really want to die so much that you're rushing to the crematorium across the street since it has no business. This guy has a really strong offensive power." I silently clapped in my heart. Xavier's face turned extremely ugly after being rebuked by him. Cecilia pulled him behind her and tugged at my sleeve, begging me to find the missing Jason. "He's my only child. I really can't live if he dies. Lucia, please help Mom." I was so angry at her words that I laughed. She said Jason was her only child on one hand, and on the other hand, she called herself my mom. I sneered. "If you can't live, then go die." Coincidentally, Sam's family sells wreaths and mourning clothes. "You can." Slap. A clear slap sounded. I was slapped to the ground by this sudden slap from Xavier, and my face stung with pain. "Ungrateful wretch," he cursed at me with his eyes wide in anger. Sam helped me up and pulled me behind him. With a cold face, he pasted a talisman on Xavier's chest and muttered, "Slap yourself." The next second, Xavier started slapping himself like a madman. Cecilia beside him was stunned and involuntarily took a step back. I covered my already swollen cheek, filled with anger in my heart. I directly stepped forward and tore off the yellow talisman on Xavier, before he could react. I swung my arm in a circle and slapped him in the face. Slap. A loud and clear slap resounded. "You're really rebelling against the heavens." Xavier wanted to come up and hit me, but he was intimidated by Sam standing in front of me, looking at his scared but also defiant appearance. I laughed. "So what if I'm rebelling against the heavens? What can you, a useless man who only bullies his wife and daughter and acts tough at home, do to me?" Xavier was so angry that he almost crushed his fist. At this moment, Cecilia seemed to think of something. She pulled Xavier's sleeve and motioned with her eyes for him to go home. That look clearly showed that she was up to no good, but I was too lazy to care about them. I let Sam take me to his store and put medicine on my face. This was the first time I entered his morning apparel store. As soon as I entered the door, I met a pale face. I was so scared that I immediately stood at attention on the spot. Sam quickly said in a gentle voice not to be afraid, and then said to the paper-maid girl, "Go back to the backyard." The next second, the paper man actually obediently and stiffly walked towards the backyard. This Sam really has something special, for, after applying the medicine, Sam excitedly asked me again if I wanted to be a savior. I didn't answer. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a head slowly poking out from the door of the backyard. It was that paper man. Its eyes painted with black ink stared straight at me, and its blood-red upturned mouth was extremely eerie. I shuddered unexpectedly. Sam also caught a glimpse of it and quickly waved for it to go back, but after a while, the paper man came out holding a piece of paper. There was a sentence written crookedly on it. "The young master hasn't been this excited for a long time." What kind of housekeeping paper man? Hey. Sam was even more speechless. "I've told you to read less of those sweet sea romance novels." As he said that, he pasted a yellow talisman on its forehead. The paper man immediately couldn't move and was carried to the backyard by Sam. "Sorry, that's a keepsake left to me by my grandfather. It has gained some spirituality and is rather naughty." I nodded to show that I understood. "To be honest, it's really amazing." The next second, Sam talked about his dream of saving the world again. I have to say, he is really persistent. Actually, I didn't plan to refuse him, because the system assigned me a task of preventing him from turning into an evil ghost, which means I have to follow him and protect him. "All right, I'll follow you. Pour me a glass of water. I'm dying of thirst." Sam immediately obediently got up. After drinking the water, Sam suddenly received a phone call. "Sam, hurry back to the mountain gate. The monsters in the demon-suppressing tower are about to break out. I'm coming back right away. Senior brothers. Wait for me." Sam started packing his things. I had no choice but to go back to the store, pack 2 pieces of clothing and some food, and go back to Mount Shu with him. When he saw me carrying his school bag, he was stunned for a moment. "Lucia, I'm going back to save the mountain gate. Stop talking nonsense. Let's go." I raised my leg and got on his motorcycle. 5. The once prosperous city was now extremely silent. Many people were hiding in their houses and didn't dare to go out. The place where we lived wasn't far from Mount Shu. After being blown by the wind for half an hour, we arrived at Mount Shu, which was shrouded in black clouds. All kinds of explosions and the roars of wild beasts kept coming from the demon-suppressing tower on the mountain. Some small demons that took the opportunity to escape were running towards the town at the foot of the mountain. Behind these small demons were the disciples of the Shushan school flying on their swords. I was really stunned. There really are people who can fly on swords. The people of Mount Shu have been cultivating immortality behind our ordinary people's backs, right? If it weren't for the fact that they were all wearing modern short sleeves and pants, I would really have doubted whether I had entered an immortal cultivation TV drama. Just as I was surprised, Sam beside me had already taken out a sword, thrown it into the air, and pulled me to stand on it. I was so scared that I tightly hugged his waist. I'm afraid of heights. It's okay, I'm here. I was thus forced to experience flying on a sword. My legs were weak when I got down, but I didn't have time to recover, because there were many more cracks on the demon-suppressing tower. It seemed that it would turn into powder at any moment. Sam, come quickly to suppress the monsters. If they escape, the world will be doomed. Coming. The second-year middle school, Chunibyo, white-haired teenager rushed forward without hesitation and joined his fellow disciples in forming an array to suppress the monsters. The wind blew the yellow talisman on his left ear. It attracted me to keep looking at him. I suddenly guessed the reason why he turned into an evil ghost. If I'm not mistaken, in the previous life, this demon-suppressing tower not only failed to hold, but also caused countless disciples of the Shushan school to turn into evil ghosts. Among them was Sam. The monsters in the demon-suppressing tower were still trying to break through the formation. Perhaps because of the end of the world, they had also become stronger. There were already thunder and lightning flashing in the black clouds on Mount Shu. It seemed to be an omen of something, due to the impact of the monsters. Stones of all sizes started falling down. I almost got hit, unexpectedly. Sam was still paying attention to me. He shouted at me, "Lucia, step back." I obediently took several steps back and kept thinking in my mind which book I could use to help him. TSK, why hasn't Chinese Paladin 3 been published as a book? Just then, a black arrow came breaking through the wind. It shot the Shushan elder in the front. The elder, who was focused on suppressing the monsters, didn't dodge at that moment. Those monsters seized the opportunity and directly broke out of the tower. The disciples immediately reacted and flew on their swords to fight these monsters. The injured elder was also moved to a safe place. Sam and a long-haired senior brother in a suit were dealing with a snake demon. After the snake demon escaped from the demon-suppressing tower, it immediately became as tall as a building with more than 20 floors. The hot air it exhaled had a fishy smell. Its dark green snake tail swept over. The long-haired senior brother lightly tapped his toes on the ground, and an 8 trigrams diagram faintly appeared. He also used the force to jump into the air and dodge the snake tail. Sam dodged by flying on his sword and at the same time threw countless yellow talismans towards the long-haired senior brother. That person almost approached the snake demon's head step by step at lightning speed by stepping on the yellow talismans, and then raised his sword and stabbed it hard into the snake demon's eye. During this process, I even heard that senior brother say irritably, "Damn it, this suit is really uncomfortable to wear." Scarlet blood splashed into the air, some of it even dripped onto my face. The snake demon was in so much pain that it started shaking its head to get rid of them, but the long-haired senior brother's feet seemed to be nailed to the snake's head, standing firmly. At this time, Sam bit his middle finger and drew a blood talisman in the air. "Go." With an order, the blood talisman flew towards the snake demon's vital spot. Unexpectedly, before it could make contact, the snake demon noticed it and intercepted it with its tail. With a bang sound, the snake demon's tail exploded into minced meat. The snake demon let out a painful scream towards the sky. The long-haired senior brother used the force to grab the sword handle and pulled it down. A wound immediately appeared at the left eye of the snake demon, revealing blood-red flesh. "Sam, go and help others. I'll take care of this." Hearing the long-haired senior brother's words, Sam hesitated for a moment but then turned around to help his other fellow disciples. This long-haired senior brother was really powerful. Some other disciples were beaten until they vomited blood and were seriously injured by the monsters. But no matter what, they didn't back down. Sam kept flying on his sword among all kinds of monsters, showing powerful combat power, but there were simply too many monsters. He was finally attacked by the vines of a tree demon and was slammed hard onto the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood, staining his Chinese-style jacket on the chest even darker. I rushed over and helped him up in a hurry. "Sam, are you okay?" He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. After looking at me with his double pupils, he gently pushed me aside and said tenderly, "You hide well and watch me subdue the demons." Then, he rushed towards the battlefield again. With a rumble, a thunderclap sounded, and raindrops as big as soybeans fell on the ground, splashing up a layer of dust. The rain would block the sight, and for the disciples of the Shushan school, it was an additional obstacle. I usually don't read many books, and at this moment, I couldn't think of any book at all. I was extremely anxious. Until I remembered what Sam said about subduing demons and eliminating evil. A book was immediately retrieved from my sea of consciousness. On the simple and unsophisticated cover, there were 3 big characters written, *Journey to the West*, subduing demons and eliminating evil. Right, I'll invite that person to help. I bit my middle finger and smeared the blood on the cover. My tone was pious and firm. I invite the gods with my blood, great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong. Can you come to my aid? In an instant, the sky and the earth changed color, and the thunder and lightning in the sky rumbled towards me. They landed behind me, outlining the figure of a giant. The next second, that figure turned from virtual to real. It seemed to come through the thunder and lightning. The Rui golden cudgel emerged out of thin air. It broke the tree demon in half. Old Sun is here. As soon as the great sage's unique voice sounded, the disciples of the Shushan school wearing various modern clothes below were stunned. Damn, seriously, am I seeing things? Is this the great sage equaling heaven? Can I take a photo with him later? I want an autograph from him. I want to have his monkeys. Hey, bro, you're a pervert, aren't you? Never mind, it's just a joke. The great sage saw the disciples below, tilted his head in confusion, and blinked his eyes several times. Yo. The person who summoned Old Sun this time is dressed very strangely. As he said that, he didn't forget to wave the Rui golden cudgel in his hand and smash a monster that was approaching. Then, he lowered his head and looked at me, smiling and scratching his ear. This time it's a little girl. I frowned in confusion and asked him respectfully, Great Sage, do you mean that you have been summoned by others before? Where are they? The great sage held the Rui golden cudgel and waved his hand. Can't say, the great sage smiled and gently waved the Rui golden cudgel. A monster that tried to approach and sneak attack him was knocked unconscious. At this moment, he showed absolute suppression of power. Little girl, step back, let Old Sun try the monsters in this place next. The great sage bent down and pushed me back with his big furry finger, which was even bigger than me, directly 10 meters away. Then, with a light tap of his toes on the ground, he flew into the air and knocked out one monster after another. For a moment, the blood of various monsters mixed with the rain fell on Mount Shu, and the screams resounded through the sky. The setting sun and the evening glow seemed to be dyed with blood. Seeing this situation, the disciples of Mount Shu became even more excited and rejoined the battlefield, either putting those scattered small demons into magic tools or eliminating them on the spot. In just the time it took to burn an incense stick, the monsters were all eliminated. The great sage also gradually shrank to the size of a human and stood beside me. The disciples also started cleaning up the mess. Those who had just said they wanted to come up and get an autograph or take a photo were now too busy to come. Only Sam was dragged over by the long-haired senior brother in a suit by the collar. Hey. Senior brother Hansen, you're choking my neck. Stop shouting. Let's go down the mountain. But here, we have a new mission. The long-haired senior brother named Hansen took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, and then skillfully held out the cigarette pack in front of the great sage, raised his eyebrows, and said, Great sage, have one. The great sage tilted his head and said several okay words. Then, he imitated Hansen's gesture, lit a cigarette, and took a big puff. He was choked and coughed continuously. Hansen immediately told him how to smoke. Interesting. The great sage clapped his hands and said excitedly, Then, Hansen led us down the mountain to carry out the new mission, to catch the person who had shot the black arrow just now. I don't know why, but this time the great sage didn't disappear and returned to my sea of consciousness like the god summoned before. At the foot of the mountain, Hansen dropped his blood on that arrow, and a small 8 trigrams diagram with that drop of blood as the center flashed by. The next second, the front end of the arrow automatically started to rotate in his palm. Let's go. 6. The 4 of us followed the guidance of the arrow and came to an old residential area. With every step I took, my heart sank a little more, because I had walked this route countless times before, until a familiar dilapidated iron gate appeared in my sight. I was sure that this arrow was actually related to Xavier and the others. After confirming the location, Hansen stepped aside to make way for Sam. Sam walked to the door, and his double pupils lit up for a moment. The next second, I heard him say, There's no one inside. I was stunned for a moment. X-ray vision, so powerful, and Hansen had already lifted his long leg and kicked open the iron gate neatly. The room was in a mess, and there was instant noodle soup that I didn't know when it had been eaten spilled on the table, attracting a group of mutated flies as big as rats. Fortunately, this group of flies hadn't eaten people yet. Hansen took a look around the room and finally walked towards the master bedroom, which was Jason's room. As soon as the door opened, a foul smell of decay rushed towards us. I was stunned when I saw the scene inside. A huge bronze evil Buddha statue, as big as 2 people, was placed on Jason's bed, and in front of it were 3 skinned human heads. The blood soaked the bed sheet, but strangely, it all gathered at the feet of the evil Buddha. Just then, the great sage, who had been silent beside us, said, "Does he have an extra pair of eyes?" Only then did we notice that a small crack gradually opened below the 2 eyes of the evil Buddha. A pair of black and white pupils stared at us intently from inside. Hansen cursed under his breath, closed the door behind him, and hung a sword made of 5 emperor's coins at the door. Someone is offering human sacrifices to the evil Buddha here, and because of the end of the world, the evil Buddha's magic power is growing rapidly. If we don't find that person quickly, it will probably be more difficult to deal with later. Hearing Hansen's explanation, we all felt a bit heavy-hearted, since Jason was my younger brother. I thought of several internet cafes and friends' houses where he usually went, but we didn't find him in any of those places. Moreover, the same evil Buddha was also found in his friends' houses. Hansen and Sam's brows hardly ever relaxed. Finally, Sam sensed something was wrong. No, there should be one more evil Buddha. Hansen immediately understood the 5 Buddha killing technique. The great sage and I looked at them in confusion. Sam explained to us concisely, "There is an evil sorcery called the 5 Buddha killing technique. One only needs to enshrine 5 evil Buddha statues around the residence of the person they want to kill according to the pentagonal formation. In the end, they can kill that person regardless of everything. This evil sorcery is very overbearing and vicious. It requires human blood as a catalyst, and it will not stop until the target is dead. If the target is not killed, the evil Buddha will go berserk and kill people crazily." I immediately thought about the 4 evil Buddha statues we had already found in my mind and roughly guessed the location where the other evil Buddha was enshrined, and the intersection point of these 5 evil Buddha statues was South City Old Street. Hansen's black eyes were full of coldness. More precisely, it's Sam's morning apparel store. 7. We returned to Sam's morning apparel store. Now, there was only one way left for us: to kill the evil Buddha. In this way, the backlash could seriously injure or even kill the person behind the scenes. We could also go after that person on the way, but when we got back, I was dumbfounded. My bookstore had been burned down by someone. If it hadn't rained later, the fire would surely have spread to Sam's morning apparel store. I rushed in hurriedly, only to find that 3/4 of the books inside had been burned. Many of the remaining books were also half burned, and there were very few intact books. And the copy of Journey to the West where the great sage was from had also turned to ashes. No wonder he didn't go back like the previous gods. There was a gasoline barrel by the roadside just now. Someone must have set the fire on purpose, Sam said as he squatted down beside me to help me clean up. I remembered the scene where Cecilia had stopped Xavier before, so that's what she had in mind at that time. I punched the wall and squeezed out a sentence through my clenched teeth. "Just wait for death, Cecilia. Lucia, will show you what a real bane is." 8. I could only temporarily stay at Sam's morning apparel store. Since I was the only girl, Sam removed the yellow talisman from the paper man and said considerately, "Don't be afraid, let the paper man keep you company." I looked at the paper man with a eerie smile on its upturned mouth and fell silent. "Dude, are you afraid that I won't be scared?" But in the end, I didn't say these words, after all. The guy really meant well. The paper man stood beside me obediently to keep me company, to enhance the communication between us. Sam also burned some paper. The next second, the ashes of the burned paper moved with a gust of wind from nowhere and formed several words on the ground. "Woman, come here and please me." Sam rolled his eyes at the paper man speechlessly. "Read less of those sea romance novels." After that, he went out to discuss with Hansen how to deal with the evil Buddha. The ashes on the ground changed again. This time, it was, "I am Qin Shi Huang, transfer 50 yuan to me, and I will make you a great general." I almost burst out laughing, thinking it was quite interesting. I burned a 50 yuan underworld banknote for it. As the flames devoured the last corner of the underworld banknote, the voice of the system suddenly rang in my mind. "Congratulations to the host for obtaining a new skill, the award of Qin Shi Huang." I was stunned. I stared blankly up at the paper man standing in the interweaving of light and shadow. It still had its red mouth upturned, but it became more endearing in my heart. What the hell? Is there really Qin Shi Huang inside this paper man? Damn it. The ashes on the ground changed again. This time, it was, "I just lost a bet with that kid's grandfather, so I'm temporarily staying in this paper man's body to protect him in this life." Wow. Sam's grandfather is so amazing. He could actually make Qin Shi Huang willing to stay in the body of a paper girl to protect Sam. What exactly is Sam's grandfather's identity? I couldn't help asking. The ashes on the ground turned around and around before changing into 2 words, "Heavenly Way." I was stunned. The words "Heavenly Way" were too impactful. The ashes on the ground changed again. "Don't tell that kid." I nodded stupidly. Okay, Sam really has a powerful backer. So when I saw Sam later, I decisively poured water for him and massaged his back. I hoped that Grandpa Heavenly Way would treat me better too, but this made Sam very confused. He took a sip of water, thought for 2 seconds, and then carefully opened his mouth to test me. Do you like me? Me, get out of here. I snatched the water cup back from his hand. I have no intention of falling in love at all. Hansen, who was sitting on the other side teaching the great sage how to fold gold ingots, glanced at us twice and then curled his lips. Just then, the door of the store was suddenly knocked. It was Cecilia. Lucia, come out and help me find your brother. She stood in the dark night and knocked on the door anxiously. I roughly guessed that the missing Jason must be related to the matter of the evil Buddha, so I didn't want to care about her anymore, but she kept making a fuss. Lucia, come out. You unfilial and ungrateful wretch, help me find your brother. Her voice was as shrill as ever, just like every time she came back and beat me after losing at Mahjong. But fortunately, I'm not afraid now. I'm even annoyed when I hear it. Thinking of the burned books in my bookstore, I directly picked up a small bottle of gasoline and went out, planning to create a human firework. But as soon as I took a step, I was stopped by Sam. What's wrong? He stared intently at Cecilia outside the door, as if facing a formidable enemy. She's not right. Look at her feet. Hearing this, I shifted my gaze downward, then all the hairs on my body stood on end. Cecilia was actually walking on tiptoe. She was possessed by a ghost. Hansen also lit the cigarette in his hand at this time and said in a low voice, "It's the evil Buddha." The great sage silently stood behind me with his Rui golden cudgel to protect me. Cecilia outside was still calling me. Her voice was getting shriller and the pitch was getting higher. It made people think of the sound of nails scratching on a blackboard. It gave me goosebumps. She even pressed her face against the door and stared inside with empty eyes. Hansen raised his hand and casually tied up his long hair that was hanging down. He held a yellow talisman between his slender fingertips and threw it towards the center of the door. A golden formation immediately appeared and slowly rotated. Cecilia, who is possessed by the evil Buddha, was sent flying 5 meters away by the formation, with a gloomy expression. Sam, you and Lucia stay here. I'll go out with the great sage to deal with the evil Buddha. Sam obviously didn't want to. Senior brother, this evil Buddha is after me. I can't let you take the risk. Hansen's tone was lazy but carried a hint of unyielding coldness. Sam, I'm your senior brother. I have the responsibility to protect you. As he said that, he didn't care about Sam anymore. Instead, he and the great sage opened the door and rushed towards Cecilia. Seeing this, Cecilia let out 2 sneers, and saliva dripped from the corner of her mouth. She raised her hand with a blackened palm and directly grabbed the great sage's Rui golden cudgel. Then she turned sideways and kicked away the sword that Hansen swung down. The great sage reacted quickly. Instead of dodging, he moved forward along the Rui golden cudgel and slapped Cecilia on the waist. Cecilia was sent flying 3 meters away by this blow and fell to the ground. The next second, she got down on all fours like some kind of beast and rushed towards them with bared teeth. The great sage sneered. He quickly drew a golden line on the ground with his Rui golden cudgel. Cecilia, who rushed up, seemed to hit an invisible wall that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. At this moment, Hansen also flashed in front of the golden line and raised his hand to grab Cecilia. I squinted my eyes and saw that a black spell tattoo had somehow appeared on Hansen's hand. Wisps of black chi emanated from the tattoo and surrounded Hansen. Sam noticed my gaze and explained to me, "That's the ghost hand Vajra talisman invented by senior brother. It allows him to grab any spiritual body without getting hurt." Over there, Hansen's hand also grabbed Cecilia's neck and then pulled it back. A shapeless mass of black chi was pulled out of Cecilia's body by him. Cecilia suddenly lost her support and fainted on the ground. The captured mass of black chi didn't struggle. Instead, it disappeared with a bang in an instant. Both Hansen and the great sage were stunned. The great sage quickly understood that this was a diversionary tactic. He turned around and ran towards us. "Little girl, come out quickly." Before Sam and I could react, a gray ghost claw covered my eyes. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sam being held down by 5 little ghosts. With his limbs and head pinned, he could only watch helplessly as I was pulled into the darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I actually found myself back at home. Jason, who had been missing, was standing beside that evil Buddha statue. He raised his chin and looked at me with a proud and arrogant expression. "Lucia, look, you still have to die in my hands in this life." He had indeed been reborn too. I stared at him coldly, and my mind was filled with the memory of Xavier and his wife tying me up in my previous life and deliberately using a blunt knife to slowly grind into my 6th finger. That pain swept over me again like a wave. As if he knew what I was thinking, he deliberately took out a blunt knife from behind. There was anticipation of cruelty in his eyes. "In this life, I will still cut off your 6th finger little by little, then slice off your flesh and feed it to the evil ghosts." And use your head to enshrine the evil Buddha." As he said that, he slowly walked towards me. The ghosts behind me also controlled my body. I could only watch as Jason grinned and grabbed my hand, pressing it on the prepared chopping block. I was so scared that my pupils were trembling. He seemed to enjoy my fear. He deliberately ran the knife across my face. "Sister, do you know, you are not only a bane but also a useless person. When I knew you were reborn, I originally thought you would become very powerful and quickly cooperate with the evil Buddha and evil ghosts to prevent you from taking revenge, but you are actually so useless that I caught you so easily. By the way, weren't you looking for the person who shot the black arrow? It was done by the people controlled by my evil Buddha. Originally, I wanted those monsters to run out and kill you, who knew you would call out Sun Wukong. Tell me, how did you do it? Is this your superpower?" I didn't say anything, just followed the movement of his knife with my eyes. I looked very scared. "Forget it if you don't want to say. Anyway, your superpower can't defeat the evil Buddha I raised. I don't care about it. Lucia, die." He excitedly swung the knife at my sixth finger on my right hand, but at this moment, I suddenly broke free from the ghost hand behind me and knocked the knife out of his hand with an elbow strike. At the same time, I quickly caught the knife and slashed at his neck with force, cutting his carotid artery. Warm blood immediately splashed on my face, and my vision turned blood red. Jason covered his neck, gasping for breath with difficulty. He looked at me in disbelief. "You, how could you possibly?" I didn't say anything like in a TV drama. Instead, I directly started to stab him again, until Jason was decapitated. I seemed to have come out of a pool of blood. I turned around and looked at that evil Buddha statue. A black shadow came out of the evil Buddha and tried to escape through the window, but he didn't expect that Sam had already set up a formation here. The core of the formation was me. As soon as I appeared in this room, the formation took effect and sealed off the room, and the sword made of 5 emperor's coins left by Hansen was just to mislead him. "Where do you think you can run?" I stood in the pool of blood with a knife in my hand and stared at the black shadow with a cold smile. For a moment, it was hard to tell who the villain was. "Lucia, you're a bane." The black shadow finally spoke, and its voice was as hoarse as the last whine of a worn-out bellows. I shook the blood off the knife and smiled innocently. No. To be more precise, I'm your bane. You evil ghosts are unlucky to have met me." The black shadow seemed very angry and let out a roar as it rushed towards me. I didn't dodge and let him keep approaching me. Then he passed through my body. I was still standing there unharmed. The black shadow was stunned and even asked me what kind of monster I was. I almost burst out laughing. "I'm just an ordinary bane." After that, I threw away the knife in my hand, calmly spread my hands to the sides, and looked at the black shadow with a smile. "With my body, I will absorb the evil ghost." As soon as the words fell, countless golden lights emitted from my chest. They were like threads that wrapped around the black shadow of the evil Buddha and pulled it towards my chest. The evil Buddha screamed and struggled, but it couldn't escape, until it was completely devoured by me. It only left a meaningless threat. "Lucia, just you wait." Tisk. Boring. I kicked Jason's head and snorted. "Useless." 9. To be honest, for all these changes, I have to thank Cecilia for burning down my bookstore. Due to the disappearance of a large number of books, the system compensated me by upgrading the God-level defense skill left to me by Jesus. Now I can be immune to the harm of Chinese-style ghosts and monsters, and because of the lack of books in the bookstore, many positions in the bookstore in my sea of consciousness have become blank books. This led to me getting a new skill. That is to seal those ghosts and monsters in these blank books, at the same time. From the moment I saw the bookstore being burned, I knew that the real target was me, not Sam. Burning the bookstore was to force me to live in Sam's place. The reason for making the intersection of the 5 Buddha statues Sam's morning apparel store was just to make me lower my guard and think that the 5 Buddha statues were aimed at Sam. But I'm not a fool. Jason disappeared for no reason, and one of the 5 Buddha statues appeared in my home. This matter must be related to me. Fortunately, I awakened a new skill, so I could make this plan with Sam and the others. Otherwise, it would really be a bit troublesome. She gave me a black card with a beaming smile and then disappeared around the corner of the street. As soon as I reached downstairs, I saw the white-haired boy, the man in a suit, and the great sage who had rushed over. I waved to them and smiled from the bottom of my heart. I won. Sam didn't break and directly rushed over to hug me. His tone was full of worry. "Woo-hoo. It's good that you're okay." I smiled and patted his back, and then gave a thumbs-up gesture to the man and the monkey who were sharing cigarettes over there. 10. Later, the 3 of us and the monkey formed a team and traveled around the world, eliminating ghosts and monsters everywhere. It took 5 years for the world to become safe. Sam finally became the savior as he wished, and I immediately asked the system if I could send the great sage back into the book. As a result, The system told me in a cold mechanical voice, there is only one copy of Journey to the West in this world. Once it's burned, he can't go back. Hearing this, I looked at the great sage with some apology. I was about to apologize and say that it was me who caused him not to be able to meet his master and fellow disciples, but the next second, the system's voice sounded again. However, there are copies in other worlds. I was stunned. What do you mean by that? It didn't answer me directly. Instead, a light circle unfolded in front of me. Through the light circle, what I saw was not the bookstore where I was, but a girl with a silver metal mechanical prosthetic right arm. Beside her stood a sister and a cheongsam. Behind them was a deserted city, which was in a much worse situation than mine. I even saw Godzilla in the distance. The girl over there also sensed something and lifted her eyelids to look at me. The moment our eyes met, I saw a line of green words pop up above her head. The host of the civilization revival system all.